What if the reason your life feels stuck isn't because you don't have time, but because you're not ruthless with it? Not in a harsh way, not in a work 24/7 way, but in a quiet, honest way, where you stop lying to yourself about where your time actually goes. Because think about it. You say you don't have time, but somehow you had time to scroll, time to overthink, time to delay that one thing you knew actually mattered. And the scary part? It didn't even feel like a choice. It felt automatic. Now here's the uncomfortable truth. Your life isn't shaped by what you want to do. It's shaped by what you repeatedly allow. And right now, you're allowing things that are keeping you average. That word, average, it doesn't sound painful, but it is. Because average isn't failure, it's something worse. It's potential, slowly fading. Now pause for a second. Be honest. How much of your day is actually intentional? And how much of it just happens? Think about it, because this is where everything starts. Not with a new goal, not with more motivation, but with awareness. Now here's where it gets real. You don't need more time. You need better standards for your time. Because time isn't your problem. Tolerance is. What you tolerate, what you accept, what you let slide. That's what's shaping your life. Now let me ask you something. If someone watched your day from the outside, would they say you're focused or distracted? Disciplined or reactive? Moving forward or just staying busy? Don't answer quickly. Because that answer, that's your reality. Now here's the part most people avoid. Being ruthless with your time means saying no, a lot. To things that feel harmless, to things that feel easy, to things that don't seem like a big deal. But add them up, and they become your life. Now this next part, this is where things shift. Because you start realizing you're not tired because you're doing too much. You're tired because you're doing too much of what doesn't matter. And that drains you, mentally, emotionally, quietly. Now think about this. How many things did you do today that actually moved your life forward? Not maintained it, not distracted you, moved it forward. One step, even a small one. Now here's a thought that hits hard. If you keep living your days like this, where does it lead? Not next week, not next month, but a year from now, 5 years from now. Same habits, same patterns, same distractions. What does that life look like? Take a second. Really picture it. Because this isn't about fear. It's about clarity. Now here's where most people feel resistance. They hear this and think, I'll fix it tomorrow. But tomorrow is just another version of today, unless you decide differently. And that decision? It doesn't come from motivation, it comes from standards. Now this next part, this is where it gets uncomfortable. Because being ruthless with your time means cutting things out, not adding more. Cutting. Distractions, excuses, time-wasting habits, even people. Yeah, that part's real. Because not everything deserves access to you. Not everything deserves your time, and that's hard to accept. Now pause. Is this starting to feel a little uncomfortable? Good, because that discomfort means you're seeing something clearly, maybe for the first time. Now here's the deeper truth. You don't need to control your entire life. You just need to control your next decision. That's it. Because your life is just a collection of those decisions. Now imagine this. Instead of asking, what do I feel like doing? You start asking, what actually matters right now? That one question changes everything. Now here's where things begin to shift. Because once you start valuing your time, you start valuing yourself differently. You stop settling. You stop delaying. You stop pretending you don't know better. Because you do know. You've always known. And that's the part nobody talks about. You don't lack information, you lack execution. Now let me ask you something. Is this you right now? Or are you still telling yourself you have more time? Don't rush that answer. Because this next part, this is where everything begins to change. Because the moment you realize your time is slipping, something inside you shifts. Not dramatically, not all at once. Just enough to make you uncomfortable with how you've been living. And that discomfort, that's important. Because for the first time, you're not just thinking about change. You're feeling the cost of staying the same. Now here's where it gets tricky, because right after that realization comes resistance. Your mind starts negotiating, softly, quietly, convincingly. Just one more day like this. I'll start when things calm down. I deserve a break. And listen, sometimes you do. But most of the time, that voice isn't protecting you. It's keeping you stuck. Now pause. Have you ever noticed how easy it is to delay something important when you tell yourself it's just for today? Be honest. Because that just today turns into a pattern, and patterns become your life. Now this next part, this is where things get real. Because being ruthless with your time means becoming aware of those negotiations in real time, catching them, questioning them, interrupting them. Now imagine this. You're about to do something you know doesn't matter. Scroll, procrastinate, avoid. And right before you do it, you pause, just for a second, and ask yourself, is this moving me forward or just keeping me comfortable? That question, it creates space. And in that space, you have power. Now here's the shift. You don't need to win the whole day. You just need to win that moment. Because that moment is where your future is decided. Now think about this. How many moments like that happen every day? Dozens, maybe more. And each one is a choice. Now this is where most people misunderstand discipline. They think it's about being perfect, never slipping, always focused. But that's not real. Discipline is just closing the gap between what you know and what you do. That's it. And that gap? It's smaller than you think. Now here's something most people won't admit. They don't struggle because life is hard. They struggle because they keep choosing what's easy, over and over again. Now pause. Which one are you choosing more often? Easy or necessary? You already know the answer. And that awareness? That's where things start to change. Now this next part, this is where it gets uncomfortable in a different way. Because once you start choosing what matters, you're going to feel something unexpected. Loss. Not of time, but of comfort. Of habits you've grown attached to. Of routines that feel familiar, even if they're holding you back. Now let me say something that might hit. You're not addicted to distraction. You're attached to escape. Think about that. Because distraction isn't the problem. It's the relief it gives you. From thinking, from pressure, from responsibility. And being ruthless with your time means letting go of that escape. At least a little. Now here's the question. What are you avoiding by staying busy with things that don't matter? Don't answer quickly, because that answer, that's the real work. Now this is where things shift again, because instead of running from discomfort, you start leaning into it. Not aggressively, not emotionally, just willingly. Because you understand something now. Discomfort isn't the enemy. It's the price of growth. Now imagine this. You choose the harder thing, not because you feel like it, but because it matters. You finish something you'd normally delay. You focus when you'd normally drift. You show up when you'd normally disappear. And at the end of that moment, you feel something different. Not excitement, not relief. Respect for yourself. Now here's a quiet truth. You don't build confidence by thinking. You build it by doing, even when it's uncomfortable, especially when it's uncomfortable. Now pause. Does this feel familiar? Or are you still resisting it a little? Because that resistance, that's normal. It means you're on the edge of change. Now this next part, this is where everything either starts to click or falls apart. Because once you begin to take control of your time, you face something deeper, something most people never confront. And when you see it, you can't unsee it. Because what you start to see is how much of your life has been running on autopilot. Same mornings, same habits, same distractions, different day, same pattern. And the scary part? You didn't even question it. You just lived it. Now here's where it hits. You weren't managing your time. Your time was managing you, pulling you into whatever felt easiest, whatever required the least resistance, whatever helped you avoid the uncomfortable truth. Now pause for a second. Have you ever reached the end of the day and thought, what did I actually do today? Not in a dramatic way, just confusion. Like the day slipped through your hands. Because that's what happens when you're not intentional. Time doesn't slow down, it disappears. Now this next part, this is where things get real. Because once you see this pattern, you can't unsee it. You start noticing everything. How often you check your phone, how quickly you switch tasks, how easily you lose focus. And it's frustrating, because now you're aware. But awareness alone doesn't fix it. Now here's the mistake most people make. They try to overhaul everything at once. Wake up earlier, work harder, cut all distractions, be perfect. And it works for a few days, maybe a week. Then what happens? They burn out. They slip. They go right back. Now this next part, this is where it shifts. Because being ruthless with your time isn't about doing everything. It's about doing the right things consistently. Now imagine this. Instead of trying to fix your entire life, you focus on one thing, one task, one priority, and you protect it ruthlessly. No distractions, no excuses, no negotiation, just focus. Now let me ask you something. What's that one thing in your life right now that would actually move everything forward? Not 10 things, not 5, 1. Think about it. Because that's where your energy should go. Now here's where it gets uncomfortable. Because once you identify that one thing, everything else becomes noise. And cutting out that noise, that's hard. Because some of it feels productive, some of it feels necessary. But deep down, you know it's not the priority. Now this is where discipline becomes real. Not when you're working hard, but when you're choosing what not to do. Because every yes to something unimportant is a no to something that matters. Now pause. Look at your day. What are you saying yes to that's keeping you average? Be honest. Because that answer, that's where your time is leaking. Now this next part, this is where things deepen. Because once you start protecting your time, you're going to face something unexpected. Loneliness. Not because you're alone, but because you're different now. You're not available all the time. You're not saying yes to everything. You're not engaging in the same distractions. And people notice. Now here's the truth. Growth separates you. Not permanently, but temporarily. Because while others stay comfortable, you're choosing discomfort. While others stay distracted, you're choosing focus. And that creates distance. Now let me say something clearly. That distance, it's not a loss. It's alignment. You're moving towards something, and not everyone is going the same direction. Now pause. Are you okay with that? Or do you keep shrinking just to stay comfortable with everyone else? Be honest. Because this choice, it defines your future. Now here's the shift. You stop trying to balance everything and start prioritizing what matters. Because balance often keeps you stuck. Priority
moves you forward. Now imagine this version of you. You wake up with clarity. You know what matters. You act on it. No overthinking, no delay, just execution. Calm, focused, intentional. That's what being ruthless with your time looks like. Not chaos, not pressure, clarity. Now this next part, this is where everything locks in. Because once you start living like this, you realize something deeper, something most people never fully understand. And when it clicks, there's no going back.
Because what finally clicks is this. Time isn't something you have. It's something you're constantly spending every second, whether you're aware of it or not. And once you truly see that, you stop treating time casually. You stop acting like it's unlimited, because it's not. Now here's the part that hits deeper than most people expect. You're not just spending time. You're trading your life for it. That hour you waste, it's not just an hour. It's a piece of your life you don't get back. Ever. Now pause. If you started seeing your time like that, would you still use it the same way? Or would something change? Don't answer quickly, because this realization, it's heavy. But it's also freeing, because now you understand something most people ignore. Your life is not made up of years. It's made up of days. And your days, they're made up of moments. And those moments, they're decisions. Now this is where everything comes together, because being ruthless with your time isn't about being extreme. It's about being intentional. You're not trying to control everything. You're just choosing better, more often. Now here's a quiet truth. You don't need more discipline. You need fewer distractions. Think about that, because your problem isn't that you can't focus. It's that you're constantly pulled away. And every time you let that happen, you train yourself to lose control. Now imagine the opposite. You protect your attention. You guard your time. You choose what deserves your energy, and you ignore the rest. Not perfectly, but consistently. That's power. Now this next part, this is where identity locks in, because once you start living like this, you stop seeing yourself the same way. You're no longer someone who tries. You're someone who executes, quietly, consistently, without needing validation. Now let me ask you something. What would your life look like if you became someone who does what they say? Not sometimes, not when it's easy, but every day. How would that feel? Because that version of you, it's not far away. It's built through decisions, small ones, daily ones. Now here's where it all connects. You were never stuck because you lacked potential. You were stuck because your time was being spent in the wrong places, on the wrong things, with the wrong priorities. And once you fix that, everything shifts. Now pause. Does this feel different? Not overwhelming, not complicated, just clear. Because clarity is what changes behavior, not motivation, not hype. Clarity. Now here's the final realization. You don't become successful by doing more. You become successful by doing what matters and eliminating what doesn't. That's it. Simple, but not easy. Now think about your life again. Your habits, your routines, your daily choices. What needs to go? What needs to stay? What needs to become non-negotiable? Because this moment, right here, this is where you decide. Not later, not tomorrow. Now. Now here's a quiet challenge. If this makes sense, if something in you knows this is true, don't ignore it. Don't overthink it. Just act, even in a small way,
Because small actions create momentum, and momentum changes everything. Now imagine this. A few weeks from now, you've been consistent. You've protected your time. You've cut out what doesn't matter. You've focused on what does. And your life? It starts to feel different. Not perfect, but controlled, clear, intentional. That's what you've been looking for. Not motivation. Control. Now here's the truth you can't unsee anymore. If you're not ruthless with your time will be ruthless with your life. It will pass. It will move. It will take your potential with it, unless you step in and take control. So the question is simple. Are you going to keep living like you have more time, or start living like it actually matters? Because your answer is already shaping your future. And if this hits something real for you, don't just move on. Stay with it. Think about it. Act on it. Because most people hear this and go back to their old habits. Don't be that person. Be the one who decides and follows through. And if you want more clarity like this, more control, more direction, stay close to it. Subscribe and start building a life you don't need to escape from.